Cabrillo Marine Aquarium, and my name is Sarah, and I'm one of our women in science because I have a degree in biology and I have a master's in biology. And you'll see we're a diverse group of scientists here. And I'm going to have the lady next to me introduce herself this way.
Hey, all.
Or the other way.
My name is Shauna. I am an educator at the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. I've been here for 20 years plus in education, and actually I've gotten my degrees, Bachelor of Science and Master's in Science in Marine Science. So we're all representing women in STEM today. Irene?
And here I am. I'm Irene. I'll be working more behind the scenes, but I thought I would introduce myself by saying that I have a mechanical engineering degree and pursued a career in IT. And I am so happy to be able to reconnect with the life sciences working for Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. Thank you very much. I'll be monitoring the chat session if you have any questions.
Okay, well, before we start talking to you about our amazing grunion, we're going to show you a little video about the aquarium.
The Cabrillo Marine Aquarium is a trusted resource that inspires exploration, respect, and conservation of Southern California marine life. We are located at the southern end of the 110 freeway in San Pedro, at Cabrillo, and next to the Port of Los Angeles. Most of your clothes, household items, and transportation come through this area from international sources. We are a place to explore natural areas such as beaches and tide pools, a place to learn through experiences throughout the aquarium and our coastal parks, and a place where you learn that nature and animals are something to protect and respect. At the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium, you can find animals such as, yeah. And we do a lot of research at the aquarium too. So we're gonna get started. Before we really dive into things, we also want to give a shout out to Dr. Karen Martin.
And if you don't have tin foil, even just a piece of paper, like regular size 8.5 by 10 paper. So like I said, we'll need tin foil, rulers, a ruler, scissors, markers, and that's all you're going to need to make our grunion. Maybe we'll make a whole school of grunion. Who knows? So the other
we're going, well, Irene is managing the chat, so we really want you all to think like scientists as you learn about grunion fish. Scientists ask lots of questions and have lots of wonders. So as we're learning, if you want to type into the chat, Irene we'll bring her back from time to time to check in with what kind of questions you all have.
Thank you, Shauna.
All right, and we're just gonna get started learning about what makes a fish a fish. I've lost all of my visual aids, so we're just gonna, use our imagination today. All right, so today we're gonna learn about the grunion fish, the California grunion. And for some of you that may speak Spanish, you may know the word grunion, but this fish is not grumpy. It's really cool. But first, before we really get into grunion fish, let's think first about what makes a fish, okay? Now, first let's think about, where do fish live? Yes, they live in water. They live in rivers and lakes and the ocean and all those places where we have water. And they're able to swim around in there. And let's think about, do you like to swim? When you're swimming, can you breathe in the water? No, you can't. You have to hold your breath, wait till your head is above the water, use your lungs to get some oxygen, and then keep swimming. But a fish doesn't have lungs. They have what? Yeah, they have gills in their bodies. So you all could pretend like you have gills. The fish's gills are usually hanging out, well, actually behind their ears too, right here. They usually have some coverings over their gills, so you can have some gill coverings too. And how they breathe is they open their mouth wide, let the water come in through their mouth, and open up their gill coverings. And as they're swimming, the water moves through their mouth and over their gills. And that's how they get the oxygen out of the water. So you try breathing like a fish yourself. Yes, all right. Now, let's see. We actually share something in common with fish too, is that they have this thing along their back. If you feel your back, can you feel those little bumps on your back? Yeah, that is your backbone or your vertebrae, and fish have those too. Now, some fish, their skeleton and vertebrae are made of bone, like us, and other fish, like sharks, their skeletons are made out of cartilage. That's like in your ears and in your nose. So if you feel that hard bit, that is also what can be making up the skeleton and backbone of a shark. And now let's think about what is on the outside of their bodies. What covers the body of a fish? We are covered in skin, but they are covered in, yes, they are covered in scales. Now, if they're bony fish, they're covered in scales. If you're a shark, they're actually covered in these little tiny teeth all along their skin. Can you imagine being just covered in teeth? I don't think anyone would mess with you if you were covered in teeth. And so that's why they have those scales or dermal denticles if you're a shark, to keep them protected. Now, lastly, we have to think about how a fish moves. And we're going to get more into this when we make a fish with Sarah. But thinking about how a fish moves, what do they use? Yeah, they use fins, aletas, right? They're using those to help them swim around in the water. And they have all sorts of different kinds of fins that each one has a different kind of job that we'll learn about with Sarah. And as I said, there's so many different kinds of fish. Sharks are fish, rays are fish, skates are fish, grunion are fish. There are some fish that are so teeny tiny and start off as plankton drifting in the ocean. And then there are some like the whale shark, the largest fish that there is, that could be upwards of 30 plus feet long. But today we are going to focus on the grunion fish. And now I do have something that I can use as a map to show you where grunion fish live. If let's see, we got to get ourselves to North America. All right, here we go. Here's North America. Here is California in the United States and down into Mexico. So let's see. Yeah, here's San Francisco. It's really cool. The grunion fish just pretty recently started living up all the way up in San Francisco in the bay there. And they go all the way down to Los Angeles, all the way down here, down to the tip of Baja. And the California grunion actually have a cousin too that like to live here in the Gulf of Mexico between Baja and mainland Mexico. They do their business in the daytime, but I'm getting ahead of ourselves here, but we're focusing on the California grunion, and they go from San Francisco all the way down to Baja. All right, so now that we've learned a bit about what makes a fish and where our grunion fish live, and I actually have a grunion fish right here on my shirt, we're gonna bring back Irene to see if you have any questions about fish and what makes a fish a fish. What, Irene? No questions yet? Maybe
No questions yet.
Maybe our friends are a little shy.
I'll encourage them in the chat session to ask more questions. I'm sure as you continue with your talk, the questions will start coming up though.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, Sarah, why don't you take it away?
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about grunion, and thank you, Shauna, for all your fishy background there. Grunion are really unique. They, like Shauna said, they only live along the coast of California and Mexico. And they have some interesting behavior when they want to lay their eggs and get their eggs fertilized. And that's what we always call here at Cabrillo Marine Aquarium a grunion run. And grunion fish actually bring themselves up on the beach at night in the spring and summer and lay their eggs. And it's really interesting. And people have the Native Americans from this region, the Chumash and the Tongva, we have record where they were eating these fish back thousands of years ago. So grunion have been around a long time. They've been around at Cabrillo Beach, and we've been sharing information about them with everyone like we're doing right now since 1949. Okay, I was not there. Okay, just so you know. But we've been doing it that long. So we really find grunion exciting and interesting in just a unique way that we in Los Angeles can connect with nature, with a natural rhythm where an animal does a certain behavior every season at a certain time. And like Shauna said, she was wearing a grunion. This is the symbol of Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. You can see the grunion right here. And what we're going to do now is I made some video. My daughter, Mickey, and I, she is a woman in science because she does videos and she might go into making scientific video. So she and I went out to the beach about a week ago because we wanted to film information about grunion right where we find them year after year. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut to a video of Mickey. And Mickey is a volunteer here at Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. And she's going to lead you through a lot more detailed information about grunion. And what I'd still like you to think about is questions. Please think about, anything. If you think it's too weird, it's too strange, why do they do that? Anything. Think about asking us. We're here to help. But if you don't do it during that time, please remember we're going to have a website posted. Irene's going to post the address in the chat and you'll be able to go there and find more information. So now let's give it over to Mickey. Show that video.
Hello everyone, my name is Mickey and I'm here to give you an overview of grunion. These are amazing fish and I'm about to show you some actual grunion. Here are my grunion. Yeah, they don't look like much, but that's because they're dead. When grunion are alive, they're a beautiful, beautiful silvery blue color. And they look a lot like this. Now, they're not just amazing because they're silvery blue. These fish are amazing because they lay their eggs on the sand. Now, when grunion come up to lay their eggs, they have a grunion party. Look at all those grunion. Now, this happens right after a full or a new moon, right around this time of year. All these slippery grunion fish come up to lay their eggs. Now, how do they do that? Well, Mama Grunion does this. What happened to her? It seems like she's missing a bunch of her body, you know? It's just her head. And, well, that's because she has wiggled her way all the way into the sand about 4 to 5 inches so that she can lay all of her eggs. And I say all, I mean a lot, like 3,000 eggs. Do you think you have 2,999 brothers and sisters? I don't think so, but these grunion fish do. And when she's laid her eggs, she leaves them there and goes back into the ocean. Now these 3,000 eggs sit in the sand looking like this. Whoa, they're pretty orange, aren't they? Now, they're very, very small. This picture is zoomed in, like on your parents' phone. So imagine a grain of rice, right? We all eat rice. Now take that grain of rice in your mind and chop it, bam, in half. That little half of a grain of rice, that's about the size of one of these grunion eggs. They're really teeny tiny. Now they're gonna sit in the sand for 10 days until they're ready to hatch. When they're ready to hatch, they're gonna look something like this. Ooh. Can you see their eyeballs? They're staring at you. That's because they're ready to hatch. They can see, so they're ready to go out into the ocean. But they can't do it by themselves. What they need is for big waves to come up from a full moon or a new moon and shake them up a bit, bam, 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 and whoosh, get yourself some baby grunions. And these little teeny tiny fish, remember, half a grain of rice, are all gonna swim back out into the ocean. And it's only gonna take 1 year until they're just as big as these fish, and they'll come back up and lay their own eggs. Now, here at Cabrillo Marine Aquarium, we like to do something called the grunion dance. So what I want everyone to do is stand up, move everything out of the room so that you have some room to move, and we're gonna do the famous grunion dance. And I want everyone to do it because this is for adults, kids, your dog, I don't care. Because millions of people have done this dance. I myself have done this dance since I was 7, and I'm not 7 anymore. Okay, everyone, give you just a few more seconds. We ready? All right, do as I do. On a full moon or a new moon, grunion. See, now you're grunion, right? Take big waves, whoosh, whoosh, and they come onto the sand and they wiggle down, wiggle down, wiggle down, wiggle down. And they lay 3,000 eggs. Are we ready? Whoosh, 1,000. Whoosh, 2,000. Whoosh, 3,000 eggs. And they wiggle out, wiggle out, wiggle out, wiggle out. And they take those big waves, whoosh, whoosh, right back into the ocean. Now what have they left behind? Now you're an egg. Get down low, you're an egg. And you're gonna wait for 10 days. Those big waves to come. Here they come, and you go, whoo, and pop! You're a baby grunion fish. And you take those big waves, whoosh, whoosh, back out into the ocean. Very good job, boys, girls, parents, dogs, cats, parakeets. You have done the famous grunion dance. Now, next, you're going to watch actual grunion fish be hatched, just like you danced the grunion fish to be hatched. I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentation. mom, Sarah, has finished singing happy birthday to our newly hatched grunion fish, they need to eat their first meal, which they can't do in that jar or in that bucket. So that bucket full of all the baby grunion fish we have hatched today is going to be taken out into the water, and those baby grunion fish will be delivered into the ocean where they can live their happy, healthy grunion lives. Now Sarah's waving goodbye to those grunions she's just set into the ocean, and she's walking back to our studio where she will continue our presentation.
Wow. So did you see those baby grunion? They are so teeny and we love them. Every spring and summer, we hatch grunion at Cabrillo Marine Aquarium, and we share that with guests who come. Now, of course, this year we're not open yet. Perhaps we'll be open by later in the summer, and you can come down and hatch some grunion with us. But how do the grunion know when to come on the beach? That's a good question you could ask us later. We know a little bit about when they come. The grunion like to come and lay their eggs on the beach after a super high tide. And those super high tides happen in the spring and summer, and even all year round, when there's a full moon or that new moon that you can barely see. And that's when we get the super high tides. Now, surprisingly, there's a full moon tomorrow night. So what does that say about grunion? Well, grunion don't quite like the full moon. They want to lay their eggs a day or two later, when the tide isn't super high, but just high enough that no water is going to come back there until the next high tide. And the grunion will come to different beaches in Southern California. Now, they come pretty regularly here to Cabrillo Marine Aquarium's beach, and we have 2 beaches, and Shauna will talk to you about those later. The one you just saw in the video actually is inside the LA harbor, so that the grunion come in with the big tanker ships and the container ships and the pleasure boats, and they come in and lay their eggs. They also lay them on our outer beach. But grunion don't just come in any old time. They can be very picky about what night they come in and what conditions are. Because for grunion to lay eggs and come in on the beach takes a lot of their energy. A lot of all their food goes into making those eggs or making the milk that fertilizes the eggs. So they're not going to come in if they don't think it's going to work. So you may think, oh, I'm going to go see grunion tonight, and Cabrillo Aquarium says there are going to be grunion tonight. Well, they might not be. It might be too bright. The crowd might be too noisy. Sometimes we get a big crowd. The waves might be too high. There might be something in the water that the grunion detect. We have Karen Martin that we mentioned earlier. She's done research that show grunion are very sensitive to chemicals in the water. So grunion will often send in a scout fish, which is really cool if you're waiting on the beach. And the scout comes in, the scout leaves, the grunion don't show up. But we want you to know what you might see on a night when the grunion are coming in. So please show that video. Okay, you saw it, a grunion run. Grunion dancing on the beach. Is that not crazy? I mean, really, have you ever seen anything like that? You need to see that in person. I promise you, that's something you really need to experience. And we'll give you some more information about ways you can do that in just a few minutes. There's just one more thing I want to show you, and then we'll go to a Q&A, question and answer period. You may not be able to get down to see grunion at night because it can be pretty late at night, like midnight. But there's other clues about grunion that you can find on the beach. And the other day when Mickey and I went down to the beach to film, we found some clues. So I want to show you that video right now.
We were down on the beach getting ready to film, and we saw a seagull poking in the sand, and the grunion were supposed to have been here last night. And I just dug in the hole he was poking in, and there are their eggs. Can you see them?
Grunion eggs! Did you see those? So that meant the night before we were there, the grunion were on that beach laying eggs. And it was crazy. Later, we looked down the beach and there were about 24 birds, all poking right at the tide line from the night before. So grunion eggs and grunion themselves are part of the food chain. You know, maybe that's why the grunion lay 3,000 eggs at a time, you know, in order to make sure they have some eggs survive. Birds come and eat them. Sometimes on grunion run nights, we'll see raccoons, we'll see foxes, we'll see herons, just waiting for the fish. And then in the morning, after the fish have been there, we'll see a lot of birds. So Cabrillo Marine Aquarium does predict grunions on these particular nights coming up. You'll see that this week, after the full moon tomorrow night, we're predicting grunion may be up Monday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Now, we have every 2 weeks, they could come up. The trick is what beach. You might want to check on the wildlife website listed here. And Irene's going to post this chart on the website we've made. So again, look in the chat. You can call lifeguard stations, but I do know that in Huntington Beach, Santa Monica, they've seen them. They see them sometimes in Redondo Beach, all up and down the coast, Malibu. But like I said, the grunion are going to do what they're going to do. They're only going to come in if they think it's the right time. So we can't control nature, but think of it as a fun night hanging out on the beach. Okay. So now I'm going to ask Shauna and Irene to come back with me, and we're going to see if we have any questions from you guys that we can answer.
Well, thank you so much for all that, Sarah. I hope everyone learned so much. That last video was incredible. Hungry.
So one of the questions that got asked, Sarah and Shauna, is what hazards are the grunions experiencing, whether predator or otherwise, I would say?
Well, it seems like Sarah talked about some of those predators. Are there any more predators to list, Sarah?
Can you see that? Can you see what that? Can you see that?
Yes.
Those are beach cleaning machines. They clean the beaches from, you know, the tide to the top of the sand, and they are disturbing the grunion eggs. Again, this is something Karen Martin has done research on. You'll find at Cabrillo Beach, on our outer beach, you might think there's a little bit too much seaweed, too much kelp, but we do that so that the grunion eggs don't get disturbed. So that's a big problem for the grunion populations. And like I said before, also there is evidence that if there are chemical spills or oil in the water, it affects the grunion egg viability. And you know, that's a concern. So the populations, Karen Martin runs a program called grunion.org, and where citizen volunteers go out on the beach and report whether they see grunion or not, all up and down the coast. And she's been doing this for she has data back to 2010 at least, and the numbers are going down. And she's doing research to try to figure out why. So that's a great question, because You know, so many of our animals in the ocean are really good predictors of the health of the ocean, right? So maybe our ocean isn't so healthy.
And you actually touched on the population question, Sarah, but does Karen's data also show how many fish roughly that we see in a given year?
She does. The data they're doing, you saw that video of the fish, right? And that could be a whole beach. So to
Yes.
actually count them or even try to count an area, they haven't been able to do. So the Grunion Greeter program has a scale of how dense the number of fish look like on the beach and how far across the beach. Is it just a small area? Is it a huge area? And they rate it on a scale from 1 to 5. I have to check. I believe 5 is when it's just wall-to-wall grunion, almost as far as you can see, right? And the Grunion greeters report these sightings, and they're very consistent. She's compared greeters across the same beach, and the greeters are very well trained. You know, she trains them, and their reporting is very consistent with each other. And for Cabrillo Beach, I love that whoever asked this question, I love that you asked about the grunion health. This is what's been happening at Cabrillo Beach. And I'm sorry, I have to double check. The what we want to see is a lot of black and not a lot of white, right? What we're seeing over a 10-year span is, where am I? Okay, maybe that's better. We're seeing a lot more white. We're having more and more nights where no grunions show up at all. So we don't have hard numbers, but we have a trend.
And I would just add on to all that Sarah shared with us, you know, something else that we're finding throughout the world is climate change. The seasons that we may have been used to are rapidly changing and shifting in when they occur. So the timing, Sarah had said, you know, we have really high tides and low tides throughout the year. But one of the reasons likely of why they come up in the spring and summer is because when the eggs hatch, those baby grunion fish are eating plankton, the tiny plants and animals in the ocean. And at the bottom of that food chain are plant planktons, and they really increase in numbers in the spring when there's been a lot of water bringing the nutrients that they need to grow, and then a lot of sunlight. So we may not have a lot of people watching right now because they're outside enjoying that sunlight, and the phytoplankton right now those plant plankton are increasing in number. And then the animal plankton are timed to come right after that to start eating them up, and same with the grunion. But as we start to see our seasons shift, things become out of sync. So it's possible that our grunion are hatching and there's not as much food for them to eat.
Wow. Thank you for that. I think we're getting a little bit ahead of our presentation, but one of the other questions that has been asked is, how long does it take for the grunion eggs to hatch? And I'm going to add to that, again, what's the difference between the Baja grunion and our grunion, and why is that again?
Well, the Baja, the Gulf grunion, they come up on the beach during the day to lay their eggs. And so that kind of, you know, a little bit of a feeding frenzy that Sarah describes at night with nocturnal predators coming up. Just imagine what it looks like during the daytime when you have all these fish coming up and everyone can see what's going on. Pelicans, gulls, all sorts of birds, other predators, they're all out to get them. So the California grunion coming up at night is a little bit more of a way for them to protect themselves.
Perfect.
And Irene, somebody asked how long it takes the eggs to develop.
Yes.
This is, again, these wise little grunion. Okay, they're laying their eggs. just after a high tide, a super high tide with a full moon. The next super high tide will be the new moon, and the new moon and full moon are about 14 days apart. The grunion are laying their eggs a little later. Takes a grunion egg 10 days to develop, just 10 days. And it goes from those orange eggs, where most of what you're seeing is yolk, to full-fledged baby grunions sitting there in the egg ready to go. But the grunion eggs, won't hatch without more ocean water. So that's the beauty of them being such up at the high tide. They're waiting for that next water to come get them. It's all perfectly timed. It's amazing. Humans had nothing to do with this. Nature figured it all out.
That's right. That's right. One last question I'm going to ask is, the new moon, and if I want to go see a grunion run, but unfortunately my schedule is such that I can only go during a new moon, how am I going to see them? Uh-oh, did I stump you? I know I did.
It's a bit tricky. You would need to bring your own light, but when we have runs at the aquarium in the past where we have people come, we actually ask people to keep their lights off for a good amount of time, because as Sarah mentioned, you have that scout coming up. So if the scout comes up and says, I don't know, y'all, it seems to be like daytime out there. There's so many lights. That, they may go back and say, like, we shouldn't do it. But luckily, our eyes do adjust eventually at nights. And the fact of the matter is, too, we live in cities with lots of other light pollution that would help you see. Once there's a lot of grunion on the beach, then definitely it's okay to turn your lights on at that point, because you're not, they've already gotten the clue that it's okay and safe to come up.
All right. Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
All right. So we are going to make a grunion fish, friends. So Sarah is going to get ready for that to happen. And you can get ready for that to happen right now, too. So if you go get those supplies that you need, aluminum foil, scissors, markers, and a ruler, but that's not required. We will show you another way that you can measure out a grunion fish. And it looks like Sarah is ready, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, so I have a picture of a live grunion, not alive. Well, he is alive. He was alive when we took the picture. A picture of a grunion, so you can see what our goal is. And something we haven't discussed, you did see the grunion in the jar that Mickey held up, but this is the size of a grunion. So if you look, it is on the palm of someone's hand. So we want to make our grunion this big. And this is a cool trick. Somebody taught me a while back. To know, you should always know sort of how big that is, how big your hand is. Mine is, lucky me, 6 inches. And that actually is the average size of a grunion. So for me, if I'm out anywhere and somebody goes, oh, it needs to be a foot long, I can do this. So it's always kind of a cool idea to even know, the size of your hand, or know this size. And then you sort of are walking around with a ruler. Yeah, I know it might be on your iPhone. I understand that, but this is old school. So anyway, we're going to make a grunion that's 6 inches long. Now, this grunion we took out of the ocean, took a picture, and a lot of fish will do this. They'll fold in all their fins when this happens. So this fish, yes, we can see its tail, but we want to make our grunion with all its fins and everything. So I'm going to work with this picture. This is a picture drawn by an artist at Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. And yes, you guys into art, you can go into science and be a scientific illustrator. We have a fabulous one named Evie, and she drew this grunion. So this is what we're going to work off of, because here you can see he has a fin here, fins, tail. This is his gill cover, eyes. We're going to do all this. And how are we going to do this? super easy. Tin foil, because grunion were silver, right? They were silver. So I'm gonna get my tin foil. Remember, this part's really sharp if you're doing this. You know, adults, do what you need to do. Okay, so I said 6 inches, right? So I'm gonna lay my hand out. Oops, I pulled out too much. Okay, well, we'll pinch that back in. My grunion might be bigger, but get about 6 inches of tin foil. Take it off. It doesn't have to be perfect. So here we go. This is the easy part. I'm gonna fold it in half. Just fold it in half. Shiny side out. Let's make them super shiny. Fold it in half. And we're gonna do it again. It's like tinfoil origami. Do it again. And we're gonna do it one more time. Okay. That's the basis of my grunion.
Sarah, can you, oh, there you go.
So close, right? So close. But here's where the fun begins. So first, look at his head. Head's a little narrower. So what I'm going to do is make 2 folds like that. Is that a little bit more narrow, like the head? So Shauna, why would they have a narrower head?
So remember, they're swimming in that water. You ever tried to swim, you feel that kind of water pushing against you. And so now they have more of like a little torpedo shape that's going to help them push through the water and move a lot faster.
Cool. All right, so now we're going to look at the other end. We're going to look at the tail. We're going to make this tail. So this part, come in about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and just squeeze your tin foil together. Okay.
Over just a little bit, Sarah. You're cut off by the. There.
Okay. There.
There.
Okay. Can you?
Back towards your grunion. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Can you see the tail?
Yes.
There we go. See, and all I did was I just pinched it right here.
Sarah just made the peduncle, friends. That's one of my favorite words. That little area where the tail fin connects to the body is called the peduncle.
The peduncle. Okay, so this tail doesn't quite look like that tail. Can you see that? Probably not.
Yes.
Grunion tail is split. There, I think you can sort of see it there. So the way we're going to do that is get your scissors, just cut through the middle, down, and then just fold it back so it gets pointy, right? Now, my understanding is there's a good reason for that too, that helps the grunion.
Yeah, that's the same reason why they've got that pointy nose. This forked tail actually helps them move a lot faster. So you can know a lot about a fish just by looking at its tail fin. If its tail fin, its caudal fin is more like the shape of my hand, just kind of more looped like this, then that's not really a fast moving fish. But a forked tail like our grunion, that tells us they want to move very fast.
Yep. And the female grunion needs to bury in the sand, right? So it may also help her.
Nice little shovel.
Now, so we have the basic shape of our grunion. Before we get to the fins, why don't we put in the eye and the gill cover, because that will help us place our other fins. So the eye, real simple, get up some markers. I'm using black. You can use whatever you want. It's your fish, right? And we're just going to work on one side of the grunion. I picked the side where I didn't fold it back for the head. I picked the other side. So I'm going to draw a big eye. The cool thing about grunion, when they first hatch and they're first inside the egg, they are, I swear, they look like just a bunch of eyeballs. Their eyes are the biggest part of their body. Why would that be, Shauna?
What's really cool about grunion is they're ready to start eating immediately when they come out of the egg. So they have those big eyes to look for that zooplankton, that animal plankton that they're gonna eat.
Ah, They're going to need some food. And they also are going to need to get the oxygen out of the water, right, to breathe. So we've got to give them their gill opening right there behind their eye. Okay, did you guys get that part? Now, let's start with the easiest fin to make, as far as I'm concerned, with this grunion. There's a fin right here. Points backwards. Yeah, look at Shauna. You've probably seen this if you've looked at any fish. They have this fin out the side of the back of their head, basically. I forget what it's called though.
It is the pectoral fin. So that's why I'm holding my pectoral fins up here on my body, because these muscles are called your pectoral muscles. And that is what is the name of those fins on the fish there. And this is what a fish uses to steer. So once again, the shape and size of a fin can tell you a lot about a fish. We look at our grunion fish, it's got kind of like little pectoral fins like this. So that can tell us that actually they may not need to steer as much, that they're often just trying to go in a straight line. If a fish had much bigger pectoral fins like this, they would try to really maybe moving in and out of rocks or other things like that.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you can learn a lot just looking at these parts about how a fish lives. I like that. So now, is there one on each side of the fish, of the pectoral?
Yes, they are paired fins.
Okay.
Not most.
Now,
Some of them are paired.
Some of them are paired. Yeah, I know. It's like, this is the diversity in fish. We can say, oh yeah, they're all paired, and you're going to find a fish one day that they're not. So this is true of a lot of animals. So, okay. So the next thing, you can leave your fish like this, or if you want, you can cut in these very small fins. They also need these, but not as much of the stuff we've already done. So if you want to add them, you can just clip your tin foil and then fold it back. But I think, you've got the basics of an awfully cool grunion fish.
And those fins Sarah just added, those fins will help your grunion fish from not spinning as it's trying to swim so fast. Think about what happens when you throw a football. That if you throw it really fast, it's going to spin. And so this helps our fish not get seasick while it's trying to move quickly through the water. Thank you so much, Sarah, for showing us how to make it.
You helped me out a lot too.
So friends, we are going to wrap things up. Our time flew by so quickly, or maybe it swam by so quickly, just like our fast-moving grunion fish. And we just want to say that although the aquarium itself is not open right now, our gift shop is open Thursday through Sundays from 12 to 5 if you want to get some books and other materials to help you learn about the ocean. And our coastal park is open every day. We have tide pools, we have an outer beach, an inner beach, and even a boat launch. So we really hope to have you soon down at Cabrillo Beach in the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.